When Steel talks, everybody listens.
This is When Steel Talks, and we are really pleased to have the opportunity to sit down and speak with three of New York's finest arrangers and musicians in the steel band scene. We're looking at Mr. Odie Franklin, who incidentally happens to be the champion arranger for the New York Panorama 2018 with Despers USA. Congratulations once more.
Thank you.
And of course we have Kendall Williams, working currently with Cassim Steel Orchestra, second place, and we have Marc Brooks, Ad-Lib, your showpiece for 2018 Panorama in New York. Thank you guys for taking the time out to sit down and speak with us, because we know you are ready to just like leave and get down to Trinidad and Tobago for the 2019 Panorama season. So we really appreciate a few moments of your time right now.
No problem.
So all the best for the new year, by the way. That's that should be said from the onset.
Thanks, same to you.
Second place for the 2018 Panorama in Trinidad and Tobago. The three of you working as one cohesive unit with Skiffle Steel Orchestra based in San Fernando, South Trinidad. You've been with the band for 3 years, led by Junior Regrello, who is currently the mayor of San Fernando. And you are now entering your fourth collaborative year with Skiffle Steel Orchestra. So, hence a busy schedule. The new year, you guys are going to be on a plane soon, getting back to work. What do you expect to do this year, or should I say next year, 2019, as things start rolling? How are you going to be approaching
Right now,
the season?
right now we're definitely in the planning process.
Okay.
Still, there's normally a pretty big collaborative undertaking, and from this point on, we're in constant communication. So whether they like it or not, I'll call whenever. Whether I like it or not, they'll call whenever, and vice versa, you know. But just that leading all the way into the season, before we leave, a lot of work gets done before we leave, with us in communication with the band itself, and then by the time we leave, it's just to hit the ground running.
Okay. So the sum of parts doesn't necessarily equal a whole all the time. Sometimes it equals less. But the three of you all function apparently seamlessly, competitively, and successfully. How do you guys pull it together? Three arrangers, one band.
That's the secret. It's the big secret.
Just a little bit, just a taste.
Telecommunication. No, it's a big. I don't know, Kendall.
I mean, we have fun.
Most important?
Yeah, we have fun, and I think we stick to our personalities within each other and working with each other, and we don't really change from who we are when we start working with the music. You know, we bring who we are to the table, and so we remain that way all through the year. So there's never a time when you see us really moving any different from how you would see us in any other forum, you know.
So basically the way you hang together, you work together, you liaise together when you're in New York, whichever part of the planet you happen to be, that comes to the table, and it essentially generates a harmonious, and in the case of arranging with Skiffle Steel Orchestra, a productive and successful union. Pretty
The
good.
key is humbleness.
Yes.
It's respecting each other, and all three of us, you know, have
Important.
those qualities. So
Indeed.
I think that's the key right there. And
Respect.
respect.
Yeah.
Respect what everyone has to put on the table.
And it works.
Yeah.
2 words that you would describe yourself, each of you. Let's go with you, Marc, first. If you
Now,
want.
when you say describe ourselves, right?
Well, no, you.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 words that you would like or you think really speaks to Marc Brooks.
In the context of the three of us,
No, in the context of you yourself
must.
as a person. That most accurately describes you.
Tall. I get recognized a lot for my height, so that's one. No, but other than that, I tend to be the people person. I tend to be pretty decent with interactions with other people, whether I meet them for the first time or whether we've known each other for a long period of time. Yeah.
Okay. Kendall.
Quiet.
I can attest to that.
Well, humble, I guess. Yeah, quiet and humble. Yeah, stay in my corner.
Humble, worker, workaholic.
Okay, I get that. Now, in a community and in an art form, Steelband art form, where everybody is a critic, you guys still command respect, not only in New York, Trinidad and Tobago, but around the world where your name and your music is out there. What do you think that could be attributed to?
I think the biggest thing is unity. At the end of the day, whether we're working with our individual bands or working together as a trio, unity is always one of the things that we always tend to push in all of our individual respective areas as well as together. And so if we go places, most than likely, especially in Trinidad, they're going to see the three of us together at all points in time. If we're doing interviews and stuff like that in Trinidad, they're going to do the interviews. It's all or none. And that's kind of how it has to be, I think. Just so that, you know, it's made known that then that's who we are. You know what I mean? It's the three of us. We're a team, and we hold each other in that regard, in a very high regard, as a team member. You know what I mean? And so there's no I. It's always going to be we. And you know, if we can't do it, then we're just not doing it.
There's a lot of forces out there trying to divide and conquer. And the key is sticking together, like Marc said. It's just all for one and one for all. It's crazy that you came up with the name Three Amigos, but that's what we stand for.
Where did that name essentially come from?
Wasn't it you guys?
Just Three Amigos.
I think it was you guys. It was you guys.
Just wanted to get that out there officially, because now it's, you know, it's out there in the Pan diaspora, but the Three Amigos. Thank you. But it's applicable and it's accurate. So this is pretty good. Now, you guys started out as, you know, the trio. You put your talents for Brooklyn Steel Orchestra, BSO, together initially, and took part in the international conference in Panorama back in 2015 in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, that's one working environment. How did it feel to step into a larger environment in terms of the national Panorama as arrangers? I mean, when you arrange for BSO, these were your fellow musicians who you were, I mean, you practice with, you see, you hang with, you arrange for, you work with constantly. But Trinidad and Tobago was a new environment and a new band. What was that like when it was first pitched to you guys, and what did you think about it?
It was an opportunity. I mean,
okay.
It was tough. I mean, it was intimidating as well.
Yeah.
You know, going up against veterans. You know, initially going up against veterans who've been ringing bells for years. You know, we just started arranging in the Panorama Arena. I mean, I remember we went to Trinidad. What was the first thing the guy told us? It was somebody working at the airport. He said, y'all with the New York Steelband? Said, yeah, he said, Bugsy go do for it. Protective. No, seriously, that's the first thing.
Protective.
Whatever, I mean, I love it. It's competitive spirit, but we all love it.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, it was a lot. There was a lot of opposition as well, you know, from who came forth to do the music, who was the representatives of Brooklyn. I mean, like I said, with results, we were celebrating from top 10. From the time we heard 10 plays, we didn't hear BSO name, we were celebrating. People was crying already. Yeah. So it was already a win. It was already a win because, you know, I had people telling me that we are going to come last. Yeah.
So this is for the international conference in Panorama in ICP. So this is 2015 we're talking about. Okay.
Just thankful to be in the arena, you know, going up against veterans. People, you know, people who've been doing it for years.
It was nostalgic. I mean, when you look at it, to think earlier that year, I was in somebody else's house viewing Panorama and saying, you know, giving my ideas and my opinions, but also looking at people who I really admire in the musical arena. And then all of a sudden, it's like you sharing the stage, and it's like the most nostalgic feeling. I remember being in the Savannah and saying, oh, that's real, man. Yo, that's Ray Hope, you know what I mean? That's Booksy. And then, you know, going by Supernovas, I see Amrit, Amrit, I've known Amrit for some years, but I was like, that's killer drumming. You know, these things, it was pretty exciting, you know, to actually see it firsthand and, you know, be a competing force, not as just a player, but as an arranger, you know, and yeah, it was definitely nostalgic.
And when you stepped into the skiffle steel orchestra scenario on the national stage at that point, going up against other steel orchestras, not in an international quote-unquote setting, but in what's termed, you know, the Super Bowl of pan music, for want of a better description. What was that transition like for you?
That was quote-unquote more competitive. I mean, that was the talk. I'm going based on the talk. And, you know, the forces against us, you know, because at first it was, we couldn't do it, the international Panorama. We happened to succeed. God, thank you, God. And then the next talk was, well, this is the big arena now. This is the big stage. You understand? It's the big stage. So we just went in and tried to do our best, you know. And, there's nothing really to prove to anyone. We just thankful, you know, to participate in that type of thing.
How would you describe your musical journey so far? And I mean, you guys have been in this pan thing, if you want to call it that, since you all were little people. So just kind of briefly touch on what it's been like for you guys.
Well, learning experience. For me, well, I think for all of us, I mean, we're learning off each other's strengths. I'm teaching music from them all the time. All the time.
Same here. Okay. The idea is a shared system, but it's an open system. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if we can't be open with each other in terms of how we approach things and how are we then going to put something together that's substantial, you know? And so I think being open is definitely important. As far as the journey, everybody who I've either played next to on, you know, in a band or seen operate in terms of either whether it be a drummer or whether it be an Iron Man, whether it be an arranger or a driller or somebody like that, is all things that I've learned and observed and watched, and just seeing how things, you know, in my opinion, how things I guess should be, shouldn't be, so to speak, and begin to formulate a certain standard of things. You know what I mean?
Really kind of like a holistic overall from essentially the beginning of it, from practice to every single aspect of pan, even organizing, especially getting like the band on stage, getting the band laid out. So how you want it's just essentially an overall experience. Kendall?
Yeah. I mean, like they said, learning from each other, in the musical aspect, learning each of our strengths as well. Like I know I've learned a lot about myself as an individual arranger by working with them. So I think that has been great, you know, for myself, and I'm sure they've, you know, felt the same way, you know, because you understand different things differently. Like a lot of times when I speak to them, I'm like, oh, we have a different way of looking at it, you know, and so like Odie says, from time to time, I could be stuck on something. I'll be like, how would Odie look at this, you know, or something like that. How would Marc look at that, you know, and it just comes from working together, you know, a lot. But I mean, it's all in fun, and experience and a part of the journey, which I mean I appreciate the most out of it, because I don't think you don't really get a lot of that. And like one of the things that I notice about being an arranger that I think is maybe not lacking, well, I don't know, maybe it is, whatever. But I notice with other, let's say like genres of music or types of music or even like musicians, they tend to like take people under their wing, you know? But because arranging tends to be so competitive sometimes, you find that some of like the older arrangers tend not to take certain people under their wing or take anyone under their wing for that matter, you know? So it's kind of like we're kind of like under each other's wings and learning as we go along and helping each other as we go along. And that's something that I appreciate. I really appreciate.
What has been the most surprising element, or what's been the biggest surprise that you have encountered along your musical path so far? Anything springs readily to mind for either of you?
Yeah, I mean, This year, the experience this year from this year in Trinidad.
This year was the biggest. Let me tell you, the funniest thing, right? So we heard about prelims, and you know, sometimes you tend to read like commentary, and you know, nowhere in the commentary were mentioned, and you know, it's normally the bands who even us before we were in the arena we used to hold up there, you know, All Stars, Renegades, and stuff like that. And so we're not thinking much, especially based off of, you know, previous years. But we were confident still about the showing, because we know, based off of the synergy that we've been able to start building with the band, that it was a pretty decent showing. So we didn't have expectations, so to speak, when it came to results. The next morning now, we were hungry. We went to Burger King. We drove to Burger King, and all of a sudden I see a message, and it says congratulations. And I'm like, excuse what? I don't know what this is in regards. I said, okay. And then I got another message that said that this was the case, and it showed results. I said, this ain't accurate. I showed it to them. It's like, this ain't accurate. And then we got a phone call from...
a couple calls, actually.
Yeah, we got a few phone calls, and the main one was from Junior himself, Junior Regretto. He's just like, congratulations, how does it feel to, you know what I mean? And we said, how does what feel? I don't understand. Wait, what? And they told us, it's like, what? And then, yeah, from there, it's like, wow. And the thing is, the automatic mindset we had was work. You know, as fast as we, you know, feel the excitement, as fast as we understand that it's not, and nothing's going to be given or handed down. So at this point, it means work. It means a lot more work, and back to the drawing board to see how we can start refining.
Okay. So, the late Clive Bradley, right? He often said that he felt that he had the most freedom creatively and, of course, even administratively at times when he was in New York, to the point where you had the term Bradley skids, Pantone, and that allowed him to express himself more so than he felt that when he was working with the Trinidadian bands. To the extent that that could be a factor, as opposed to arranging in New York and then you arrange in Trinidad, do you think that there is any difference in how you approach, or any restrictions, be it imaginary, self-imposed, or that you just kind of intrinsically feel?
Well, I think I think naturally in New York for us there would always be a level of freedom, as a fact, in the sense that we do our individual stuff, right? And so at that point, I know solely it's my personality going towards this piece, right? Kendall with his piece, Odie with his piece. So now off the bat, that's a kind of a given. In terms of the arena itself, I think each arena kind of calls for something different, and you have to know what that is. In observing different panoramas, from us even being in Toronto, looking and observing UK panorama down to Trinidad and all, there's something specific that each one looks for, and that's the approach you then have to do. In terms of the freedom of creativity, if you know your arena, then it kind of opens you up a little bit more to be a little more free. And I think that's kind of been one of our learning processes, and trying to figure out and understand the arena and so forth.
The culture, the Steelband culture, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Okay. How does the 10-minute time limit in Trinidad, what was previously the 10-minute time limit that New York still hugs, but now it's 8 minutes in Trinidad in terms of the panorama arrangement time, does that impact on how you approach your arrangement?
Definitely does. I mean,
Definitely.
when you're doing an 8-minute song, before you know it, before you out of verse, chorus, variation, it's almost done. So it's like you really gotta be careful in telling your story, and you don't want to get stuck in a certain area, you know. So
I'm the worst with that, actually. With time, I'm horrible on time, and you know, one thing I don't care about is time. And if with one thing you can count on Kendall for is going over time and cutting, and then cutting, yeah. And so I mean, I I would love to have the 10 minutes back in Trinidad.
So you enjoy your 10 minutes?
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed the.
I
I definitely enjoyed the 10 minutes, but I mean it's a challenge as well. You know, having, like you said, you know, thinking about
a lot of music.
the time and stuff like that. Because like you said, before you know it, you turn around twice and the song is like almost done, and you're like, wait, I wanted to do this. I
have more to say.
I want you to hear some more.
Yeah.
Okay. In New York, one and done. Panorama night. In Trinidad, you have your prelims or Paniot performance, and of course you have semifinals and then finals. What do you prefer and why?
I prefer the Trinidad way, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Because here it's one and done. It's like there's so much factors that can lead to a win or a lose, you know, in Panorama, especially everywhere. But New York, you know, if the vibe of the band is not on point for the day, then that's it. That's it. If the preparation is not on time, you know, the racks are not there, you don't get rehearsal before you go on stage. That's a factor. That's a factor.
And if you got shut down the night before.
You got shut down the night before.
If it rains, you have no Panorama.
Exactly. And most of the players, you see, it's hard to get a proper rehearsal too, the day of Panorama, because most of the players are running around for their white pants. You know, who's doing their hair, who's getting their haircut. Yeah, who's getting their haircut. Everybody waits until
the V-Day. So the New York one and done is not necessarily...
It's rough.
It's rough, yeah, it is rough.
But although, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I know at some point, of course we know semis was always judged. You have a certain amount that would be ushered into
the
finals, but now prelims is also being judged. I know,
which is what it used to be before.
Right, and so I know the tiered process. Some can say it offers a little bit of freedom, but then again too, thinking when you're kind of new on the block, you don't have the element of freedom to say, I'll hold something back for finals. You know what I mean? You kind of have to come with something more refined out the gates, so that it's a consideration even, you know, before you get to the next round. And also learning this year that when you get to a specific, or even from the first round out the gates, they're already holding you to a certain position, right? And so that's up to you to either maintain it or progress from it. You know what I mean? And so that also becomes the hard part. Yeah.
Okay. So next few weeks, you guys are going to be locked. You're working together. This is one cohesive unit. And in a few months' time, back to the New York Panorama, it's going to be fiercely competitive. Yet you guys retain that respect, that camaraderie. How do you negotiate that? I mean, you already spoke of the mutual respect and essentially the love you have for each other and your talents. But is there ever any time that, for instance, you have to, how to put it, marshal or field questions from people who you work with in New York saying, well, you guys are so cool together in Trinidad, how can we expect you guys to put forth your, you know, your best musical notes when you are now working as solo arrangers here, each vying for the same prize for the New York Panorama? Ironically,
it's how you put it, accountability, right, in a sense, because I'm not going to allow them to say, you know, they haven't put forth their best, so to speak. So at some point, if we have a conversation talking about arrangements, you know, I feel like this could have been more, or this could have been more aggressive, or something like that, and I would offer that opinion. You know what I mean? And same thing if they was talking to me, we're having a conversation with each other. This could have been different, or these are some factors might have hurt you at this point.
So this is after the Panorama.
This is before. This is
before.
This is in Trinidad. This is before. This is after. This is all throughout.
Okay, but when you are here and your Despers, your Kasim, your Adlib, at that point, when you're going up on stage and you know from weeks before, you know, I've worked with these guys, but now I gotta do my best and see if I can put my band up there first. That's pretty cool.
that's the nature of competition. Competition is what it is, and so at the end of the day, none of us could ever think that it's going to be given. You know, we have to work for it. And at that point, whoever has put forth the work, whoever has the ability to be fortunate for the band being in a certain situation, whoever has, you know, organized the music in such a way that it takes the crowd and takes the judges that night, so be it. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be mad because somebody won or placed higher than me. It's just, that doesn't make any sense, you know. But in competition, naturally, I want to win. We're going in it to win. And if they don't go in it to win, then shame on them. Shame on me if I don't go in to win either. We're all in a competition together regardless. And that's a competitive spirit, but also there's a camaraderie that comes from that competitive spirit. And
at the end of the day, it's simply that you have so much music inside each of you. The talent, it's just bursting to come forth at that point. So it's like, look, this is it. This is the season. This is the time, and this is our 10 minutes. It's pretty cool. All right. In New York, what happens at times, well, I suppose all the time, when you hold the band together, even as a arranger, you're not just the arranger, sometimes you're a coach, sometimes you're a father, sometimes, you know, you're mediator, you're administrator, you're the roadie, you know how that goes, right? And you're the psychologist.
I mean, you have the most experience.
You know, you're inspirational speaker. You're jacks of all trades. You have to wear many hats for individual players and people and John and Jane Public at different times. So it's like, this is just how it is. Is it that way? You know, when you relate to skiffle, do you wear all those hats at times? Or is it different in Trinidad, your experience?
I think it's pretty different in Trinidad. You know, I can say, honestly, let's say we take this year, for example. Our duty was to the music, and we held true to that, right? And the committee did their best to make sure that we had what we needed to do what we had to do. And to, you know, that makes life so much easier. So this way we actually have points in time where we can sit down, listen, analyze, and you'll see us a few nights just like this, just sitting down talking about parts that we feel can be, you know, boosted up, or just even sitting down and just listening. And then when we get back to the house, we say, all right, this is what it is, this is what we think you should do, or let's sleep on it. And then in the morning, you know, we figure out, all right, this is what the approach is for the yard, you know.
Okay, so we are in a new New York era, one could say. At one point we had, at one point was Boogsy, a few years back. We've had Clive Bradley, the late Ken Professor Fillmore, Pelham Goddard. You know, we have had the icons of the early 2000s, the late 90s. Now you guys are bringing up the pan scene now at this point. It's your time, okay? So you have Andre White as well, you have Kareem Thompson, you have Quent, the next generation, and now following on your footsteps we have people like Damani James, we have Tristan Brington Japsy, you have Lance Maximin and Sade Constantine. What does it feel like to be in this flow?
Good question. I can speak for myself so far, and say that it's still a weird kind of feeling. Yeah, because I mean, you know, I think we were all at one point for a while on the outside looking in, and as you mentioned, just, you know, seeing people like Pop Well arrange for years, in which Marc played in the front, you know. Yeah, you know, or you know, when it was Sarge and Denzel and Odie was playing in the front, and I played in a few different bands, right, Qualis, you know, was there, and Wilfred, you know, Wilfred too, for like a couple of years. But yeah, I mean, for us to now be there, again, like, speaking for myself, it still feels weird, you know. I'm not really sure how to feel about being in that position, you know, if I'm in a position, you know, so to speak.
Well, you guys are, because one can say that you're game changers.
Right.
So do you think it has something to do with being in New York, that there's this production of talent, of Steelband arrangers? Because some of the things that happen in New York Panorama, when you have certain arrangements, like for instance Mr. Popwell, you know, it doesn't necessarily reflect what happens when you return to Trinidad at times. It depends. So do you think that there is something intrinsic or something that's really different, substantive, that New York produces at times, game-changing?
I don't know. I mean, for me, like I said, I to be honest, I don't even think about it.
Okay.
I just kind of go off of the fact that I've been given an opportunity and I don't want to waste it. You know, and I think it's an opportunity that I look forward to for years, and I work to try to get. So for me, it's just like, don't waste the opportunity. I'm not even really thinking about anything else at all. That's just me.
Yeah, I don't really think of it as so much game changing at all. I think it's kind of the nature of the beast. The way how New York is, there's so many differences in terms of culture from New York even to Trinidad, right? And so you kind of have to adapt with those changes that happen in New York, and then those changes breed a different culture, and for that we have to kind of go to suit, so to speak.
Okay.
And so when somebody comes from Trinidad, it's like, oh, well, you know, everybody in New York is like, that's fresh, that's exciting, you know what I mean? And, you know, for us going over there, it hasn't always been like that, but we still kind of keep our New York flair when we go places.
An edge.
And so we kind of hold true to that New York flavor, so to speak, when we go places. But I mean, at the end of the day, when in Rome, still got to do what you got to do.
Okay, gotcha. So, New York Steel Orchestras, the organizations, you have a lot of factors that come into play with New York Pan. So you're talking about gentrification, video games, you have the Yankees, the Knicks, you have Radio City, Rihanna, Cardi B, Childish Gambino. In other words, you have a lot of outside influences. In the case of gentrification, that's more like an obstacle. When it comes to the Knicks, the Nets, you know, Cardi B, etc., etc., these are other elements. How does that impact your overall experience in New York at the end of the day, when you guys have to essentially pull it together and sometimes hold it together?
New York by nature is trendy, and you have to keep up with the trends, otherwise you'll be lost in a time warp, and sometimes if you're lost, it's hard to come out of it, you know. And
you have to maintain the interest in this art form and the players.
Sometimes you have those who are, you know, who made, let's say, second, third generation Caribbean, right? I'm not going to say Trinity because in New York we have a large West Indian base, right? And so when you have those, sometimes they're still not as in tune with that aspect, and so they'll come, they'll play a few solos, but sometimes if you play something like trap on Pan, right, they're like, whoa, you know what I mean? I think during Pan Suite, when Andre did his piece, he had a trap section, and for those who were in the audience, that took them by surprise because they didn't expect to hear that. You know, it was refreshing for them, and
they could connect.
Right, they can connect. You know, and I think stuff like that. Every so often, we have to try to add those elements in, or throw in something that can be relatable to the culture itself. You know.
You had a.
I don't think you want to start me on the first thing you mentioned.
Gentrification.
No, but you still should, share, because it impacts at the end of the day on the overall experience and your product.
Experience it firsthand.
And your product.
What we practice is like the most. Oh my gosh.
It wasn't always like that.
No, it wasn't always like that.
That's because USA has been around there for over 40 years.
Yeah, so.
Wouldn't believe that, but yes.
Pan and New York have to get this stuff together. Just as a whole, as a unit. It can't be no more, oh, this is desperate, this is Castle, this is Adler. It just have to be all for the love of Pan. Finances is what's going to take us through the next 10 years. I don't know how, if it's sponsorship.
Business association?
Business association.
Political association too.
I mean,
so the gentrification impacts you?
It's going to impact all of us. I mean, we're directly affected by it right now because we're rehearsing, but gentrification is spreading. So just a matter of time until it's in East New York. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's going to be everywhere. East Flatbush. It's pushing back East Flatbush.
So it impacts when it comes time to rehearse.
Rehearse, yeah, because of the new neighbors. They're not used to the culture and the complaints. Well, you know, we have, what's her name? What's the lady, the Grinch? Kathleen?
Or some people call her the culture terrorist.
Literally, she's, I don't even know where to start. It's just too much. It's frustrating for me. It really is. It deterred me from wanting to pursue, like, just music, period.
Okay.
Tell you the truth, because it's like, I'm just seeing no one owns a yard. Like, no ownership to nothing. Everyone's practicing in a basement.
So therefore, there are factors that really impact you guys.
I feel like Panorama aspect is either going to downsize in the future, or we're going to have to find indoor rehearsal space. Because the outdoor is a problem.
Okay.
And they're building houses and stuff, and condos on every,
every lot that you
every lot that's free.
Yeah.
So that would ultimately be one of the greatest challenges you would say that faces New York Pan today?
For sure.
It's rapid.
Because that was the next question. I think that's what you're articulating.
It is. If you ever walk through the neighborhood, well, it's Bedford, Bed-Stuy basically, Bedford-Stuy, whatever you want to call it, but it's completely different now.
Yeah.
Completely different. It used to be a whole bunch of like vagrants and stuff, crackheads, prostitutes, all different type of stuff. Like
warehouses, vacant lots.
Vacant warehouses, lots. It's not the same anymore.
No, it's looking like Soho.
Not exactly. You look in the practice and there's a 10-story condo right over your pan yard. You understand?
Okay.
You must get complaints if they're spending their money.
So, bearing what you're saying in mind, what would each of you, now with all your experiences, what would each of you say to your younger self? Who wants to go first? What advice in a nutshell would you give to your younger self, looking back, based on all your experiences now, and also what you're talking about as well?
Try to situate yourself, not just musically, but financially.
Okay.
Because that's the world we live in. New York, you can't survive, without the proper finances. And I caught myself, like, just following pan, quit this job because I can't practice. You understand? It's like, you have to build yourself both ways. Musically, pan, and financially.
Administratively, right? Kendall, what would you?
Outside of maybe what Odie said, I think for me personally, learning more and being able to use that knowledge earlier on to help, because I think, like, I sat through a lot of conversations from, like, my father and, like, people that he used to hang around and his
he's
older
also
friends.
a pianist, right?
Yes, and just like hearing the stories and the things that they went through, and I sat down and I listened to it, but I feel like maybe if I had thought earlier on in ways to change that we wouldn't, that it might help for us to not be in the position that we are in today. Because they say history repeats itself, and it does. It not always in the exact way, but it does in sort of like different forms. And so back then, whereas they were fighting each other in a sense, we still are kind of fighting each other, at times. And then if we're not fighting each other, we're fighting the gentrification and people moving in, so it's a lot of the same things.
So you need more community when it comes to pan.
Yeah.
But community in the sense of the art form itself.
Right.
And not just coming together for Panorama, but your political, your administrative, your financial, and everything else.
Be proper representation as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Educated. I don't know what to call it, but just proper representation. And I'm not pointing fingers at who's representing now, but I'm just saying, just period. We need proper representation. People who's gonna be out there working a 9 to 5, looking for sponsorship for, you know,
for business associations.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm. We need work. We need the work ethic on the other end.
Okay.
Not just pen. Music alone.
It's not.
We can have the best music practicing in the basement. There's no guarantee someone's gonna walk in and say, "Wow, let me just give you X amount of money." You know, sponsor. It's not gonna happen like that.
Right. I think for me, I would end up probably saying be more proactive in the band in which you are looking to elevate, whether it be on the committee and those kind of things, and also for those who are on the committee, kind of getting them to make sure you utilize their outside skills to bring it to the table, so that as a committee you then could be stronger to build. You know what I mean? And making sure that, you know, we all kind of have this a vision at least. You know what I mean? It's hard to walk forward if you can't see where you're going, and I feel like in many cases now that's the issue, and that's why, you know, there's so much like circular movements, because they're not too sure.
Well, the old-fashioned spinning top in mud, as I would say.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel as though with, let's say you have a young person who's enthusiastic about being a part of the band, right? They are now allowed to be a part of a committee. They have other skills aside from playing band. Some can speak very well. Some can be accountants. Some are good at.
So you essentially just utilize your resources and hone those talents. So you have in-house resources and talents,
right,
for the betterment of the band.
And just strategy, you know, strategy on how this can work, because sometimes it even takes one band to have a model, and other bands can follow the model. You know what I mean? Or sometimes if you do take that same model and put it towards, let's say, like a USSA, you know, and that can also help push things forward, but it has to have a strategy, has to have a vision, has to have camaraderie and unity. You know, without that, then it's pointless.
Okay. So what has been the best part of your respective musical journeys so far? Well, we know for one it would be the championship of 2018, but, you know, individually speaking, if it's that or something else, or that in conjunction with something else, what are your respective thoughts?
I would say it was an iconic part of my life so far as the arranger, but now is the question, now what?
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah.
All right, that's accomplished now. What now? I don't feel complete. I can tell you that. I don't feel complete.
Yeah.
I feel there's more internal things just in the pan community, period, that has changed. And that's bothering me right now, personally. But I love pan, you know, like everybody needs their hobby or whatever. Some people play basketball, some people play pool, some people go out to party. We love pan, you understand? We just need to elevate it. We need to find a way to live.
You're being practical.
And live off of this.
You're being practical.
Because
essentially, if this is your career, your chosen path, your passion, there needs to be some sort of cohesiveness and surety.
And for everyone, not just the arrangers. Not just the
if that's
for everyone.
In terms of, I'd say
what has been the best, you know, something that you look to when you say, like, this is something that really makes me happy, makes me proud that it's been part of my journey in pan to date?
Like I said, I'm a people person. I like interacting with people, and I like interacting with young people. That's actually like part of my job, aside from me arranging. And being able to travel and meet a lot of people, meet a lot of young people, has been fun. It kind of gives me life. Then, you know, to see you have young people playing and finding this zeal to move forward and just express themselves is a great aspect for me to watch. I remember Juve in Trinidad this year. I was on the rack and I was sitting down, but then I was talking to some of there's like 3 of the younger people that's in Skiffle. They had to have been somewhere between about 16, 17 or so. And just sitting down there talking, and so they asked me a question. It's okay. So I just answered the question. Well, by the time I finished the question, they're like, wow. wow, what do you do? And it's like, for me, I'm not thinking about my impact. I'm just thinking about our interaction, you know. And from that conversation, if I talk to them in the pan yard, they'll, you know, we'll never walk past each other straight. You know, everybody has a name, everybody has a place, and it's a matter of respect. And when I go into an area, or any of us go into an area, that's how we are. We interact everybody the same way, because at the end of the day, yeah, we're here to do a job. Yeah, we're here to put down music, but also we're people too. And the people who are playing are people as well. So why not be treated as such?
So the high points for you is your constant ongoing interaction and relation. And and at the crux of it all is Pan with people. Good.
He's the PRO of this.
They're by the phone.
Me and Kendall is always in the back.
And the quiet one.
I was thinking about it, to be honest. I'm not really sure. I mean, can I even say there's one particular moment? Definitely not.
No, think about what has been like the best part of your Pan experience. Were there anything that really comes to mind? You're like, you know, this is cool. This works. This is something that, you know, I can look back on. It doesn't have to be a specific moment.
I would say a bit of both. Or I'm just gonna talk. One of the most recent moments I would say is being happy for Odie, actually, and him winning the Panorama, because I felt like, and we spoke about it. I spoke to him the night of Panorama, and just feeling like we've done something, you know, like he broke in and he just like took it, you know, and and again, it's just looking back at like all the other people, like all the other arrangers that won, and really and truly I can say Andre started it, you know, because I mean Andre was the youngest, you know, and he did it in 2008, you know, and I was even happy for him then, and I wasn't arranging at that point in time. I was just a player, but moving on from then to now 2018, Odie, somebody that I work with, you know, like on a regular basis. For him to be able to do that, if Marc won, it would be the same thing. I'd be, you know, especially happy for Marc. That is definitely something, because again, it felt like I won. I think it felt like we both kind of won. Yeah, because
you know? Yeah, because you all have grown with each other.
Yeah,
and made each one of yourselves better, and that is what comes out even when you're working solo.
Right.
As a solo arranger.
Right. So that, I mean, I just live for like those types of moments. Yeah. The earlier this year when we came second with Skiffle, that was a great moment as an arranger, but also as a spectator, because we didn't play. Well, I didn't play. Marc played, and Odie didn't play, and so I had the opportunity to jump up in the band and enjoy the music. And with my daughter at that, and so that was fun, you know, just being able to sort of sit back, and I'm always a fan first, you know, and so I felt like I didn't even feel like I was the arranger at that point in time. I just felt like I was just jumping up on stage enjoying music, and then hey, we came second. It was just like, oh, you know, so that was a great moment. And then I think lastly, a bit piggybacking off of what Marc was saying, is the moments when I can see others appreciating work that like I've done or like we've done. And a particular moment for me, it happens every year, and I always notice it, and it's always close to Panorama time or close to the actual competition day. But this year in particular, we stayed in the yard, and it was maybe 4 of us, and the song wasn't done yet. And I was trying to figure out an ending, and I was on a tenor, and Ziandre was sitting down next to me on the floor, and you know, he was tired, he was relaxing. I think Andrea was sitting down, and they're both players with Cassim, and she was sitting down on the floor. She was tired, she had work in the morning, and this is like maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and Jerry's there. I think Warren is there. He was playing bass. And I'm like, Warren, we gotta go, man. We just gotta go. And he's like, whatever you want to do. And I'm like, all right, Warren, let's run it one more time. He's like, yeah, let's go. You know, he has work in the morning. You know, and it was just like the attitude, you know. And I'm like, Warren, it's late. We gotta go, man. We gotta go.
It's the respect.
Yeah, it is.
So the respect, the love, and you guys have grown up together.
Yeah.
And it has been that line running through the respect.
And and not only respect, it was also, I think, it was a big part of respect, and it was just an energy that he gave. And to be honest, it was like we really had to go. Like Andrea had work in the morning. I think Ziandre had work. Jerry, everybody had work except for me, really, really and truly. And they were all like, nobody was rushing to leave. Everybody was just waiting. And after like four or five times of asking Warren or telling Warren we should go, I had got the ending. And then we stayed. Right. And then after that we played it, and I just got a headache. I was like, Warren, I was like, oh man. I said that was it. Like,
but you did
this
it.
is why we're here, you know?
Yeah.
This is why we're here. And I mean, that was just my moment this year. But every year and in every situation, there's always that moment. It happens in Trinidad, it happens in Toronto.
On the topic of Trinidad, in a nutshell, the changing of the song, you know, can you guys just like touch on that, kind of like give us a, I mean, there are miscellaneous, you know, theories as to what transpired. Could you just, what you're allowed to just touch on as to how that came about, and how did you guys approach it, feel about it? Well, we know what the end result was, but, you know, before that, could you touch on that?
So, in a nutshell, they received a phone call. I was up here, they were in Trinidad, and we're looking at basically figuring out how to build the most momentum. And when we were looking at how to build the most momentum, it was then decided that night that we would change to Hello. There was a completely different vein from what we initially went to. And so it's either, we said it's either we're doing it or we're not. And we said we're doing it. We came to agreement. Us and Skiffle will do the change. And we said it.
So the final decision was up to you guys. The
final decision was an agreement with us and Skiffle. Okay. All right. And yeah, a mutual agreement. And so when we made that decision, we said, you know, all right, this is what's going. We were told this is what's going to happen in the morning, so we could start. And so by then, we said, all right. You know what, fellas? We ain't sleeping tonight.
Remind you, we just finished a hot and sweaty practice.
Yeah,
after 12.
Yeah,
after 12, probably like almost 1 o'clock, maybe.
Yeah, they just finished a very serious practice. I was slated to come down the following week initially, and basically when I was at work, and I was at work from 9 o'clock that day. I got off minutes to 9 that night. And that's around when I got the phone call. But after we made the agreement, we said, all right, if this is what we're doing, we're just moving. And so we stayed up until, well, we stayed up. There was literally no sleep. We put together, we had about at least 4 minutes of music before we went to sleep. And then players came bright and early that morning. They didn't sleep because they had to start giving music. I didn't sleep. I had to go to work.
As soon as we finished.
Yeah.
Kendall was like, let me go and take a little 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You just hear a truck pull up in the front yard with players and pans.
And then from there it was music, full speed ahead. And
how the players react? They were cool.
Yeah.
Oh well,
players
are very supportive. Of course, naturally you're always gonna have like, you guys, you're crazy. How you could do that so close to, you know, the judging point. But at the end of the day, it was full speed ahead for everybody, and you know, it made things happen. And the rest was history.
Yep,
there was a fun element too of it, because we laughed quite a bit. I think in the situation, we laughed at the fact that we didn't get sleep.
A week straight.
And then even I think the players even laughed at me even when I went down, you know, in the morning. Well, us when we went down in the morning, because you can see it in our face. Like, you can see we didn't sleep, you know, and it was just like an ongoing joke, you know, everything. But I think the laughs helped us a lot.
You got the job done, most importantly. Okay, so last question. Again, back to your musical journey so far. Any specific persons, organization or organizations or specific situations that has really had a tremendous impact on you in terms of, you know, this person or this organization really, you know, made an impact, you know, was a critical point in my career? Anything like that that you guys can look back on?
Let's say I have a few, right? First, starting with Sesame Flyers, and being allowed at some point to be in a situation where I could not only be a part or learn pan from them, but I was able to be integrated to the point where I was able to teach, and that helped me discover myself in a sense, and that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And that's me interacting with those kids from the Saturday program was something that I did like, and I took very great pride in. And I still do to this day whenever
that's
I
your
go.
trajectory now.
Right.
Yeah.
And now moving on into sonatas and being able to play under Johan Papua, he was very, very instrumental because dealing with him, he had an interesting way of educating you, but he did. And up to this day, it was so like nostalgic because Skiffle was here, Shazanda was here, and Shazanda was getting ready to go. Medium Band had not finished yet. They were practicing, and I get a tap from Johanna, Papa's daughter, and Daddy wants to speak to you for a second. And so before he goes on, he said, "Listen, well, this here, you know, you guys have been doing a damn good job. Keep up the good work and keep the fire going." And you know, that's a big encouragement from somebody who I looked up to in sonatas.
You came up under.
Right.
You played his arrangements.
Also, playing with Steel Sensation for so long, since 2001 to now, under the leadership of Ian, who's a very wise person when it comes to the business and the politics of pan and understanding and helping to see how to navigate through things. That was huge. Also learning from Amrit as he approached his music and approached the style, his style. He stayed true to his style, but also was able to adapt to many forms. That was definitely very impactful. Yeah.
Okay, it's pretty cool.
Oh, me next, right? Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of there's so many moments. I can start from as early back as my parents. You know, the discipline that my father instilled in me as a pan player from early. Not playing. You know, if you outside playing with the kids, you outside playing. If you inside playing pan, you inside playing pan, but you don't mix the two. You know, don't come in the pan yard and running around the yard playing. You know, none of that.
It's music.
Yeah.
Discipline. Yeah.
And then, you know, my mother being just a support system. You know, as well as a teacher. I mean, my father was definitely the main teacher, but I started as early with both of them, and then being around their good friends. You know, in Miami, because that's where I grew up. So in Miami, so. Being around Miami South Stars, and then that turned into Miami Pan Symphony, and then playing with another band called 21st Century, which is when I started to learn a little bit more about arranging and hearing soloing from Michael Kernahan, who is the main tuner, or we call him Big Mike, but you know, the main tuner in Miami, and then moving on to Florida Memorial College, and before I even started going there, seeing Freddie, seeing Quint, seeing Foster, a few others there as well. Dr. Batson being a main force there, and even pushing me to come up to here, New York. Then Josh Quillen, NYU, you guys, When Steel Talks. You guys have been a big part of everything, you know, that I've done. That is notable. Really, truly.
to be with each of you all.
You know.
So cool.
Yeah, and I mean, working with Odie, drumming first. You know, I was your first drummer. You remember that?
Desperate.
Yeah, but working that time as a drummer, and I still don't consider myself a drummer.
I have
but
some nice pictures from that time.
But it was experience, you know, and I appreciate any type of experience, you know, learning experience, and then being able to arrange for Crossfire for a number of years, and having that opportunity from Dougie, and now the last 2 years with Kasim. Most importantly, the people who have been around me. You know, I mentioned people like Warren and Ziandre, but I mean, there's been Jerry. Jerry has been into a part of not mine, but just all three of us. You know,
Jerry guy.
Yeah. Daddy guy. Yeah. yeah, working with these guys has been a big part, and I think the other thing is also being on a more of a, I guess I don't know, one way of putting it is a first name basis with other arrangers. You know, I never really saw myself being able to call Duvon or even see Duvon call me for any reason, you know.
We're talking Duvon Stewart.
Duvon Stewart, yeah, or even being able to speak.
Arranger for
right.
2018.
Or being able to speak with BJ, you know. Or I mean, really just like any arranger. I think I met and spoke to Andy Norrell like a couple times, Liam Teague. You know, that's big, you know. I never really thought.
Because you grew up with these names.
Yeah.
Then you actually now you speak to them now as an adult yourself and someone with some experience.
Right, and I remember exactly right. Yeah, they know our names. And we still have it. The house in Florida, the arrangers, they had a old calendar that they had made of some important arrangers and pictures for every month of the year, and those are up in my house. You know, a young Liam Teague, a young Ray Harmon, a young Bugsy, a young Bradley, you know, all these people. So to now be able to speak to them, normal arranger to arranger, is just, you know, and it's always taken back. Yeah.
So, Odie.
Mine is going to be short and sweet. There's a lot of people that contributed, but I really don't want to miss any names. So I'm not going to be specific. Just, what's my opportunity? Well, most of my opportunity came to Dutchman's USA, and I'm thankful for the family I have there.
I hear that. I hear
Just
that.
keep it there.
Well, guys, you each have varied but packed schedules, and it's going to become even more hectic within the next few weeks as you return to Trinidad and Tobago to get things rolling again for 2019. So, once again, congratulations on your placings in the New York Panorama for 2018. 4th place with Adelaide, 2nd place with Kassam, and of course championship with Despos USA as you return to Trinidad and Tobago to attempt to one-up the 2nd placing with Skiffle Steel Orchestra, looking toward the championship this time. You guys have a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and it's going to be a lot of stress. But you guys, you work with it. That's pretty good. So thank you so much. It's a real pleasure sitting down with you all.
Thanks for having us.
All the best.
Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you.
One still talks.
Everybody listens.
Don't forget to put that in there.